This video is going to introduce the concept of musical intervals. First off, what is an interval? An interval is the distance between two notes on a staff, on a keyboard, basically the distance between any two given notes. Before we get into intervals, I want to introduce the concept of scale degrees and labeling scale degrees. What you have before you is a C major scale, and I'm just going to label each step of the scale with a number in order. So C being C major, the first one, we call this a tonic, we call it 1. And then go in order up the scale. C octave above, we'll call it 8. That is an octave, but for ease at this point, we're going to label that 8. And understanding that relationship in this order will help us identify intervals. So first off, our first interval, C to D. Everything's going to be based off of the root, or the first scale degree. C to D, we know this is a whole step, but we're going to call this a second. There are two parts as far as the names of intervals. There's a quality and quantity. Right now I just want to deal with the quantity, the number of the interval. C to E, so this interval from C to E, we call this a third. The interval from C to 4, we call this a fourth. Hopefully you can make sense of this. C to G is a fifth scale degree. Straight up, that's our fifth interval. C to A is a sixth. C to B is a seventh. And of course, the octave, we just call that not an 8. We call it an octave. Now, this is based on C major, so we should be able to do this in every key. So now we're going to take a look at this on the keyboard. Here is C. I'm just going to write the pitch names right on the keys. So there's our first scale degree, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. If I had another, oh, it's kind of there. There's your octave. It's a little sloppy, but we can deal. So you can also use this in your mind's eye to visualize the keyboard. This interval relationship right here, C to D, is a second. The interval relationship between C and E is a third. The relationship between C and F is a fourth. C and G is a fifth. C and A, a sixth. I'm just going to keep changing colors here. C to B is a seventh. Of course, the big one. C to C is the octave. You can transpose this, or basically start on any key of the 12 keys on the keyboard or on the staff, sharps and flats included. The idea is that you kind of visualize, and at this point you should know your major scales, and you can figure out each of the scale degrees. So let's explore the idea of scale degrees in a couple of different keys. Let's start with D. So D major, that's our first scale degree. If we just write the major scale, with our sharps, we can then identify the scale degrees. Once you do this a few times, it gets pretty easy. Oops. That's supposed to be a C sharp, not a D sharp. Glad I caught that. So in D major, the second scale degree is an E. Third scale degree is F sharp. The fifth scale degree is an A. So the interval between, for example, The first and fifth scale degree in D major is D and A. That is a fifth. How about one more? The interval between D and C sharp in D major, that is a seventh. Let's do a couple more keys. How about a flat key? How about B flat? This time I'm going to use a key signature. There's our key signature, our B flat scale. Label these with numbers. Interval between B flat and C is a second. Interval between B flat and G, we call this a sixth. Again, this is just the number interval. It does not show the quality of the interval, which I'll discuss in another video. It's pretty easy to find this basing it on the first scale degree in a key. Let's do one more. How about something with a few more sharps? How about A major? Nah, let's do E major. Get a few more sharps in there. This time I'm not going to write the numbers. The distance between E and A. Thinking again, this is our root, and you just count up 1, 2, 3, 4. Distance between E and A is a fourth. You can also count up just on the staff. You don't have to visualize the major scale, but this is a great way to do it to be really accurate. How about the distance between E and B? Yellow. That's a fifth. How about some in bass clef? We'll go back to C major. So the interval between C and G. This might be a typical question you might find on some homework for a music theory course. Identify the interval. Well, again, not just the quality just yet, just the actual number interval. You can just count up. Start counting 1 on the first notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count C, D, E, F, G. That's a fifth. Well, one more. C to B. Just count up C. That's 1. D is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a seventh. Well, that'll wrap up this portion of the videos for intervals, knowing scale degrees and the actual number interval.